Listening update on Bitcoin Cash. We had been rallying pretty vigorously over the past few days before starting to barf at the end of the trading day today. While the equities are looking pretty bad, cryptos are not looking as problematic. As a matter of fact, we may be in some kind of a small, healthy consolidation. This is our linear Bitcoin Cash chart, short-term close-up. And since we hit our bottom on January 24th, we have what looks like an A, a B, and a C wave upwards. And unlike many of the other cryptos, this actually has fit the ABC correction profile almost perfectly. We hit just maybe a hair past the 1.61 extension, which is typically about as high as you expect the C wave to go. So it looks a bit more proportionally correct. This could either be the third wave up or the C wave up. If for us to maintain the more bullish outlook, which would be green, that this is just a third wave up, we need to see a sideways slow fourth wave consolidation that would preferably not go any lower than about 326, right around that range, and then see a higher high for a fifth wave past about 380. That's about what we expect. If we got that, and then we had a three-wave pullback, I would be ready to call a buying alert, basically, start flashing those green lights, get ready to buy. Otherwise, we've got ourselves some more work to do because this still fits the profile of a corrective ABC pullback. So this would be a fourth wave in the larger C wave potentially, which we're going to look at in a second. Our support that we want to hold is 260.02, which was the low that we hit. If we break that, our green bullish setup for an immediate rally does break. So shifting to our bigger picture view, this is actually the 4-hour chart, logarithmic chart. This is what our structure looks like right now. We had our high back in May of 2021, and we've been in a pullback ever since. Bitcoin Cash was one of those first cryptos to indicate to us that there was some bearish action coming up, a lot of downward, a lot of downside across other cryptos. We didn't get the same indications from Bitcoin or Ethereum or a lot of the other altcoins for that matter. So this has the entire rally we saw during the back half of 2021 as a fake out B wave rally, which we confirmed more or less with our December 3rd smackdown that we had. That was probably our first sign of worse things to come. And after that bounce, we've been pulling back a little bit lower. As a matter of fact, we've made much lower lows to the point where we actually have gone deep enough for this to be a legitimate completion to our second wave, a legitimate C wave. What we'd expect to see in the pullback is, well, we'd expect a retrace that would it would tend to have A equals C equivalents. In other words, your C wave would be just as, not tall, but just as long as your A wave. So you'd have a 1.0 extension off of our A and our B, and that would put us around 186, which is the bottom of this blue box. We didn't quite get there, but we did hit the 0.764% extension almost perfectly, which is another strong Fibonacci. We've seen the same thing in Ethereum Classic, and if I'm not mistaken, I think EOS as well. So that is a strong indication that maybe we're just having a truncated, non-standard C wave pullback just because our A wave back here was so deep. So where does that put us at the moment? Like I mentioned, we need to hold 260.02. That is marked with this thick red line here. If we fall back below that, we're probably going into the box down here. And honestly, for Bitcoin Cash, that's not necessarily going to have a lot of downside just because, well, we almost hit that box anyway. So it would actually be a nice little sale. It would give us a much stronger indication that we have pulled back sufficiently for this larger fourth wave to be over. Why is this a fourth wave instead of a second wave? I'm going to show you guys that on bigger picture in just a second. But if that happens, that would be a time to buy your pants off. The alternate is that we're falling green and that we're not going to have a lower low. And that would entail that we either, we consolidate, have a slightly higher high, and then a three-wave pullback. That would be a classic 1-2 setup to the upside. In that case, you would still be buying your pants off. And then once we break out through the top, that would be more or less a confirmation that the low is behind us, that we don't have anything else any lower to go. Where are we looking at for our subwave one? If we do rally right away or soon, well, our standard extension patterns would place us somewhere between 646 and 1155. However, in Bitcoin Cash, this target is not as strong as it would be if this had been more of a, what do we call it, a second wave instead of fourth wave, because this is not a standard expectation off of fourth wave. Where we would end up is a little bit more subjective because, as I was alluding to a second ago, we are following a large diagonal pattern. What this is well, this is the daily chart, of course, still logarithmic. Ever since our bottom that we hit in the end of 2018, this looks like a perfect diagonal. As a matter of fact, this is a three-wave structure up for our wave one. We had a three-wave pullback, wave two. This was the March 2020 everything crash. So this looks like a good 1-2 setup for a diagonal. And we actually hit our target perfectly. You typically expect your third wave within a diagonal pattern to hit between the 1.0 and the 1.236 extensions. And well, we went jazz past the 1.236 extension, 1523. We actually hit about 1644. So looks clean for a diagonal. So, you know, we've gone a little bit higher than standard, but it fits the description perfectly. And the depth of this correction also makes it more clear that this is actually a fourth wave. Please ignore the WXY. That was when we had our double zigzag pattern. That is no longer valid, but this is sufficiently deep and it looks the part for a fourth wave within a diagonal. You expect a lot of overlap, especially with the first wave here, and you expect quite a bit of depth. And well, we also want to stick within this trend channel that we've drawn here. If this holds together, our fifth wave should, well, we'd expect it to target somewhere between the 1.618 and the 1.764 extensions of this original 1-2. And yes, that would put us between $31.81, $4,200. That would be the ultimate fifth wave top. So this would not happen right away. It would take upwards of several months, maybe a year or two to get there, but we definitely see a lot of bullish movement on our way there. Another caveat to point out is that because this is a diagonal pattern, you'd expect a powerful A wave, nasty B wave pullback, and then a C wave to finish that. All of the subwaves within a diagonal are going to be following corrective structures. So ABCs typically, you could argue that this isn't really a typical ABC, but you could argue that it is. Some of the proportions make sense, some of them don't. So maybe it's an impulse, maybe it's an ABC, doesn't matter. Expect to see the same kind of thing in your fifth wave. So you could see this thing kind of tracing on a pattern that looks a little bit like this, where, you know, we're on the bottom now. Then we look at something like this. You have a sharp rally up, sharp retrace, and then you have just a freaking rocket launch parabolic blow off, complete with a throw over. Throw over would refer to when your fifth wave goes beyond the channel trend line. Would not be surprising at all to see that. So point is, we are at a point where great time to start considering buying. If you're doing dollar cost averaging and hadn't been for a while, if you've stopped for any reason, great time to start doing that up. Even if we have a lower low, we don't have too much downside relative to the upside. As I mentioned, that's a long way up. Imagine into 1139 from 346. That's what is that? 3x return minimum expectation. When we look at this projection, similar story here, 650. So they match up pretty closely. That could be a more than 2x return right away just for the subwave one. So now's the time to be greedy when others are fearful. And I keep mentioning this over and over again. Bitcoin Cash is great. It's also high risk. Altcoins are high risk, high reward. So if you love one, love all of them, buy a bunch, buy 7 or 8 of them, buy some Dash, some Solana, Polkadot, buy some Ethereum Classic, buy some EOS. Be generous. You never know which crypto is going to outperform. And in contrast, you also don't know which one may go kaput and just wipe you out altogether. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'll be having a list of videos on what my projected returns are for various different cryptos, as well as how confident I am based on the pattern, basically the strength of the pattern. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you enjoyed my video, please give me a like. Until next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.